It hit out of nowhere. The call, the silence, the breaking. One day life looked stable, and the next, the ground gave way. You ever had one of those moments where your chest tightens and it feels like time slows down? You don't even know whether to cry or pray. You just sit there thinking, God, what just happened? That's how pressure starts. Quiet, sudden, and suffocating. You don't plan for it. You don't prepare for it. It just shows up. Maybe it was the text that ended the relationship. Maybe it was the layoff you didn't see coming. Maybe it was the diagnosis that changed everything. And the first thing that hits isn't the problem. It's the weight, pressure. And in that moment, your faith feels small, your prayers feel weak, and your heart feels like about to give out. But listen, God doesn't waste pressure. Pressure is how he makes diamonds. You see, diamonds aren't born in comfort. They're made deep underground, under intense heat, under crushing weight. And somehow, through all that pressure, they emerge radiant, strong, valuable. Maybe right now, life feels like it's pressing you from every side. But could it be that God isn't punishing you? He's producing something in you? David said it like this in Psalm 61:2. From the ends of the earth I call to you when my heart is overwhelmed. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I. Pressure reveals your foundation. It shows what you built your peace on. Some of us built it on comfort, not Christ, on routine, not relationship. And when the shaking starts, the question becomes, what are you standing on? The hit hurts, but the spiral, that's where the real war begins. It's not just what happened around you, it's what starts happening inside you. Your mind begins to spin. What if this never gets better? What if I'm not enough? What if God doesn't come through this time? The spiral of fear, anxiety, guilt, overthinking. It's a mental storm that whispers, you're losing control. I remember talking to a woman named Sarah. She was strong, the kind of person who prayed for everyone else. But when she lost her job and her savings ran dry, she told me, I can't even pray right now. My thoughts won't stop racing. You know what I told her? That's okay. You don't have to have perfect words. You just have to turn your panic into prayer. Isaiah 41:10 says, do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. And God doesn't wait for your emotions to align. He meets you in the spiral. Sometimes the most powerful prayer isn't fancy, it's just this. God, I'm trying. Faith doesn't mean you won't feel pressure. It means you won't let the pressure define you. So when your mind starts spiraling, stop and remind yourself, I can't control everything, but I can choose to trust. You can't spiral and surrender at the same time. The more you tighten your grip, the more peace slips through your fingers. But when you release it, when you whisper, God, I give this to you, that's when peace begins to return. You may not see it yet. You may not feel it yet. But even here, God is working. He's forming something beautiful. Pressure has a way of exposing not just our fears, but our foundations. When storms hit, people do one of two things. They either drift or they drop anchor. See, your faith doesn't grow through feelings, it grows through structure. And when life feels like it's shaking, you need spiritual habits that hold you steady. Let me tell you about Michael, a young father I met who went through back-to-back layoffs. He said, I don't even know how to keep my head above water anymore. I asked him one question, what's your anchor? He said, what do you mean? I told him, what's one thing you'll do every day to remind your soul that God hasn't changed, even when everything else has? Because anchors don't stop the storm, they keep you from drifting away in it. Maybe your anchor is reading a psalm before you check your phone. Maybe it's a 5-minute walk where you just breathe and say, Jesus, I trust you. Maybe it's worship in your car when you feel like crying. Anchors seem small until the storm hits. Philippians 4:6-7 says, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. That peace doesn't fall out of the sky. It's built through daily decisions. So don't underestimate the small, faithful things. They don't just help you survive, they train you to stand. Because God isn't asking you to be strong, He's asking you to stay. Stay anchored, stay trusting, stay in His presence. Now let's talk about what happens when you've done everything right. You prayed, you trusted, you anchored, and still nothing changes. That's where honesty with God becomes your lifeline. Some of us think prayer means pretending. We pray polished prayers that sound good but don't heal anything. Lord, thank you for this day. But inside, you're breaking. Lord, I trust you. But your heart is screaming, where are you? God doesn't bless pretending, He blesses real. David said, how long, O Lord? Job said, I cry to you, but you don't answer. Even Jesus cried from the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me? You see, God isn't afraid of your raw emotions. He'd rather have your honesty than your silence. So, be real with Him. Tell Him, God, I'm angry, I'm tired, I'm confused, I don't understand. Because what honesty does has opened the door for healing. One woman in our church once told me, "I stopped praying because I didn't want to sound ungrateful." I said, "You think God's ego needs your politeness? No, his heart wants your truth. When you bring him your frustration, he brings you his peace." Because prayer isn't about performance, it's about connection. It's not a formula, it's a lifeline. And the moment you stop performing and start confessing, something shifts. Peace begins to move in again. Strength returns quietly. Hope starts to breathe again. Because God already knows your pain. He's just waiting for you to hand it to him. Rachel prayed for weeks, then months, and nothing. The silence was deafening. Every morning she woke up expecting change. A call, a sign, a shift. But the world stayed still. Bills piled up. Friends moved on. Her hope began to whisper, "Maybe God's forgotten me." But here's the truth no one tells you. God's silence isn't his absence. Sometimes heaven's quiet is part of your training. Waiting doesn't mean nothing's happening. It means something's forming. Rachel started reading in Psalms where David said, "I waited patiently for the Lord. He turned to me and heard my cry." Psalm 41. That word patiently in Hebrew actually means to twist, like a rope being wound tighter. Waiting isn't passive, it's pressure that strengthens your core. Maybe God hasn't said no. Maybe he's saying, "Not yet." Because some blessings require a stronger version of you. In her quiet apartment, Rachel began to talk less and listen more. And slowly, the waiting stopped feeling like punishment and started feeling like preparation. Because in every waiting room, God is shaping the person who will walk through the next door. One afternoon, an opportunity came. Not the one she wanted, but the one she needed. A small job offer, low pay, humbling position. Rachel almost said no. She told God, "This isn't what I prayed for." But then something inside whispered, "Obedience before outcome." That's how faith grows. Not when the doors are perfect, but when they're uncomfortable. She took it, and in that small step of obedience, something shifted. Her co-workers started coming to her for encouragement. She found herself praying again, not because life was easy, but because she was learning to walk by faith, not by sight. James 1:3 says, "The testing of your faith produces perseverance." Faith that isn't tested can't be trusted, and while the world measures success by results, heaven measures it by response. Sometimes the test isn't about what's happening around you, it's about what's happening within you. Rachel's obedience in small things was building strength for greater things. Then came another blow, a betrayal. A close friend turned against her, spreading lies to cover their own failure. Rachel felt that sting. Not from strangers, but from someone she trusted. And that's when faith under pressure turns into fire. She wanted to quit, to fight back, to defend herself. But God was doing something deeper, burning away her need for approval. Sometimes, God lets you walk through fire not to destroy you, but to refine you. Isaiah 48:10 says, "I have refined you, though not as silver. I have tested you in the furnace of affliction." Fire reveals what's real, and what Rachel discovered was that peace doesn't come from people's opinions, it comes from God's presence. She began to forgive, not because they deserved it, but because she refused to stay chained to bitterness, and when she did, something broke inside her. A weight lifted, her tears became prayers, and her pain became pure. Rachel's life had quieted down again. No more chaos, no more drama, just the stillness. But for the first time, that silence didn't scare her. It felt sacred. She'd learned that God often speaks loudest in whispers. One morning, sitting by her window with coffee and her Bible open, she read, "Be still and know that I am God." Psalm 46:10. That verse wasn't a suggestion, it was a strategy. Because when you stop chasing answers, you start finding peace. Rachel realized she didn't need every why. She just needed to trust the one who held the how. The storms had ended, but the lessons stayed, and in that quiet, she began to dream again. Not the kind of dreams built on fear, but faith. It came unexpectedly. Her manager asked her to share her story at a company event, to talk about resilience and hope. At first, she hesitated. "My story isn't perfect," she said, but maybe that's exactly what made it powerful. When she stood before the crowd and spoke about brokenness and rebuilding, you could hear a pin drop. People cried, some prayed. Rachel didn't realize it then, but this was her purpose unfolding, her pain becoming a platform. Romans chapter 5:3-4 says, "We glory in our sufferings because suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope." Every pressure had prepared her for this moment. Faith doesn't just survive the storm, it shines because of it. Weeks later, an old friend reached out. "I saw your talk," they said. "You don't know what it meant to me." That message hit Rachel hard, not because of the praise, but because it reminded her that no pain is wasted when it's surrendered to God. She flipped through her old journal, the one filled with tears and unanswered prayers, and realized something. Every "not yet" from God was really "I'm not done." The promises she once doubted were the foundation she now stood on. Isaiah 61:3 came alive to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes. Rachel smiled through tears. The ashes were still part of her story, but now they shimmered with purpose. It had been 2 years since the collapse. She was no longer the woman who begged God for escape. She was the one who thanked Him for endurance. Faith under pressure had turned her pain into peace. As she walked home one evening, the sunset glowed gold over the city skyline. She whispered, "Lord, thank you, not just for the blessings, but for the breaking that led me here." That's when she understood. Faith isn't proven when life's easy. It's proven when everything falls apart and you still believe. So if you're watching this today and you feel like Rachel once did, crushed, tired, ready to give up, hear this. Your story isn't over. The same God who held her together will hold you too. Stay steady under pressure, because the weight you feel today might just be the crown you'll wear tomorrow. Hey friends, if this story spoke to you, if you've ever felt like life was pressing in from every side, remember, God is still working in the unseen. Don't lose faith under pressure. Let it build you. If you need encouragement, hit like, subscribe, and share this message so others can find hope too. You're not alone. Keep walking by faith, one step at a time.